The sun rises over the South China Sea, painting the horizon with soft gold and orange hues. But beneath this tranquil surface, a tense standoff is quietly unfolding, hidden from the casual observer. The USS Higgins, a U.S. warship, cuts through the waves with purpose, its presence unmistakable, shadowed closely by a Chinese naval vessel that matches its every move. This is no friendly encounter. It's a high-stakes dance between two military giants, each side watching the other with unwavering focus. Near Scarborough Shoal, a small but strategic spot in these contested waters, every maneuver is scrutinized, every signal analyzed for intent. The U.S. ship is there to assert freedom of navigation, challenging China's sweeping claim to these vital waters and upholding international maritime law. China responds swiftly and decisively, sending its own ships to intercept and confront the Americans, determined to defend what it sees as its territory. One wrong move, one misunderstood signal, could spark a major incident with global consequences. The world watches anxiously as these powerful navies operate just miles apart, neither side willing to back down or show weakness. For the U.S., this is more than a patrol. It's a message of support to the Philippines, a key ally recently harassed by Chinese ships in these same waters. By sending the Higgins, the U.S. signals its unwavering commitment to its allies and to the principles of international law and open seas. For China, it's an unwelcome intrusion, an assertion of sovereignty in what it considers its own backyard, a challenge it cannot ignore. American sailors are trained for these tense moments, following strict orders to assert their rights while avoiding escalation. Chinese sailors are equally determined, standing ready to defend what they see as their national territory, their resolve clear in their eyes. The stakes are high, and the risk of miscalculation is real. One error could change the course of history. This single morning sets the stage for escalating tensions in one of the world's most disputed and strategically important regions. The encounter is more than a routine patrol. It's a test of resolve, a demonstration of strength and willpower. Both sides know the world is watching, every move broadcast and analyzed by global media. The message is clear, neither will yield easily, and both are prepared to stand their ground. Scarborough Shoal becomes a symbol of a much larger struggle, a flashpoint in the contest for influence and control. The calm sea belies the storm brewing beneath the surface, as uncertainty and tension ripple through the region, hinting at the challenges yet to come. Scarborough Shoal is just a triangle of rocks and reefs, a seemingly insignificant speck in the vast expanse of the South China Sea. On most maps, it's barely visible, just a faint outline surrounded by endless blue. Yet for generations, it has been a lifeline for Filipino fishermen who depend on its rich, teeming waters to feed their families and sustain their way of life. Losing access to these waters doesn't just mean fewer fish, it means entire communities risk losing their livelihoods, traditions, and sense of identity. But the shoal's value goes far beyond its fisheries. It sits at a strategic crossroads of global trade, where some of the world's busiest shipping lanes converge. Whoever controls Scarborough Shoal can monitor and potentially influence the flow of goods and energy supplies that power economies worldwide. That's why both the Philippines and China fiercely claim it as their own, each unwilling to back down. The Philippines argues it's well within its exclusive economic zone, a claim supported by international law and a 2016 tribunal ruling. China, however, insists on its historical rights, maintaining a strong and growing presence since 2012, often blocking Filipino fishermen from their traditional grounds. An international court ruled against China's sweeping claims in 2016, but Beijing rejected the decision, refusing to budge. The result is constant tension and hardship for local communities, who find themselves caught in the middle of a geopolitical struggle. The shoal remains a flashpoint, where national pride, economic survival, and international law collide in a high-stakes standoff. For the Philippines, it's about sovereignty, dignity, and the right to survive in their own waters. For China, it's about asserting regional dominance and expanding its influence across the South China Sea. The dispute is far from settled, with each side unwilling to compromise. Each encounter at Scarborough Shoal is a stark reminder of just how difficult and dangerous a peaceful resolution can be. The world's eyes remain fixed on this tiny, contested patch of sea, watching for any sign of escalation or hope for dialogue. Here, the struggle for control is both local and global, a microcosm of the broader contest for power in the 21st century. After the USS Higgins sailed near Scarborough Shoal, the US and China told very different stories. China released videos claiming its Navy bravely confronted and expelled the American ship. Their message: China stands strong against foreign intrusion. The US flatly denied being expelled, insisting the Higgins was on a lawful, routine mission in international waters. Each side frames the event to support its narrative: China as the defender, the US as the upholder of international law. These conflicting accounts reveal deep mistrust. Both governments used the incident to rally domestic and international support. The truth is hard to pin down, lost in a battle of narratives. Was it a professional encounter or a dramatic showdown? The answer matters less than the fact that mistrust and poor communication make every encounter risky. In the South China Sea, perception is as powerful as reality. The world is left to wonder what really happened and what might happen next. Freedom of navigation operations, or FONOPs, are the US Navy's way of challenging what they see as excessive maritime claims by other countries. These operations are a demonstration of the US commitment to keeping the world's oceans open and accessible for all nations, regardless of their size or power. The principle is simple: international waters belong to everyone, not just the countries with the biggest navies or the loudest claims. This idea is at the heart of global trade and security, ensuring that ships from any nation can travel freely without interference. The US sails warships through disputed areas to assert this right, especially in places like the South China Sea, where China claims vast stretches of ocean as its own, often in direct conflict with neighboring countries. China's 9-line claim covers nearly the entire sea, overlapping with the exclusive economic zones of several other nations, creating a web of competing interests and rising tensions. The US and many others reject this claim, calling it illegal under international law, specifically the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, which sets the rules for maritime boundaries. FONOPs are a physical statement. These waters are not China's alone, and the US is willing to prove it by showing up time and again in contested areas. The US says these missions defend the rights of all nations to use the seas freely, and often conducts them alongside allies to show international support for open navigation. China, however, sees these operations as provocations and direct threats to its sovereignty, responding with strong diplomatic protests and sometimes shadowing US ships with its own navy. Each FONOP is a test of resolve, not just between the US and China, but for the rules that govern the world's oceans and the balance of power in the region. The disagreement over FONOPs fuels ongoing tension, with each side watching the other's moves closely and preparing for the next encounter. For the US, it's about upholding international law and the freedom of the seas. For China, it's about defending what it sees as its rightful territory and national pride. Neither side is willing to back down, and both are determined to stand their ground, no matter the risks involved. The result: a constant cycle of challenge and response, with each patrol and maneuver sending a message to the other side and to the world. The world's busiest waters remain a stage for power politics, where the actions of a few can impact the security and prosperity of many. The stakes are global, not just regional, as the outcome of these disputes will shape the future of international law, trade, and peace on the world's oceans. The South China Sea is heating up, and not just because of one incident. China has built artificial islands, turning reefs into military outposts with runways and missiles. Its Coast Guard and maritime militia use aggressive tactics to intimidate neighbors. The US and allies have responded with more patrols and stronger alliances, especially with the Philippines. The US defense treaty with the Philippines now explicitly covers attacks in these waters. Both sides are digging in, raising the risk of miscalculation. A single mistake could trigger a much larger conflict. The region is a powder keg. One wrong move could set it off. The world holds its breath as tensions rise. The Philippines is on the front line of this maritime struggle. Chinese ships have tried to block Philippine vessels, putting Filipino sailors at risk. Manila is pushing back, publicizing Chinese maneuvers and increasing patrols. The message? The Philippines will not yield its territory. Backed by a U.S. defense treaty, the stakes are higher than ever. U.S. support gives the Philippines confidence, but also puts it in the crossfire of superpower rivalry. The path forward is fraught with danger and tough choices. The Philippines must defend its rights without sparking a wider conflict. The South China Sea dispute is a global concern. Allies like Japan, Australia, and New Zealand have condemned China's actions and called for respect of international law. The sea is a vital artery for global trade. Any conflict would disrupt economies worldwide. The 2016 tribunal ruling against China was based on international law, but China ignored it, worrying other nations. Many countries now support U.S. freedom of navigation missions as a stand for the rules-based order. The world's unified response sends a message. China's actions are isolating it. International pressure is mounting for a peaceful solution. The hope is for dialogue, not conflict. The stakes are too high for anything less. The future of the South China Sea is uncertain and dangerous. China is unlikely to change course, and the U.S. will keep up its patrols. The Philippines vows to defend its rights, keeping tensions high. Ships and aircraft from rival nations operate in close quarters, raising the risk of accidents. A single miscalculation could escalate into a crisis. Clear rules of engagement and better communication are urgently needed, but technical fixes can't solve the core dispute over territory and law. Without diplomacy, the region remains a flashpoint. The risk of conflict is always just over the horizon. The world watches, hoping for restraint. The South China Sea is more than a regional dispute. It's a global issue. The world's trade, security, and stability depend on these waters. The conflict tests the international order built on rules, not force. If powerful nations ignore the law, chaos could spread far beyond Asia. U.S. and allied actions aim to reinforce the principle that rules matter. The only real solution is dialogue and respect for international law. The world is watching, hoping for wisdom to prevail. The future of global stability may hinge on what happens here.